dropped off for smoker, and you'll be back later on. Hey, true blue. Hey, true blue. Give it to me straight, face to face. Are you really disappearing? Just another dying race. Hey, true blue. True blue. Is it me and you? Is it mom and dad? Is it a cockatoo? Is it standing by your mate when he's in a fight? Or will she be right? True blue, I'm asking you. Hey, true blue, can you bear the load? Will you tie it up with wire just to keep the show on the road? Hey, true blue. Hey, true blue. I'll be fitting. Is your heart still there? If they sell us out like sponge cake, do you really care? Hey, true blue. True blue. Is it me and you? Is it mom and dad? Is it a cockatoo? Is it standing by your mate when she's in a fight? Or will she be right? True blue, I'm asking you. Is it me and you? Is it mom and dad? Is it a cockatoo? Is it standing by your mate when he's in a fight? Or will she be right? True
Hello and welcome to the Miami State High School's live stream of our 2020 Anzac commemorative ceremony. My name is Josephine Dutton, and together with my fellow school captain, Kalani Ripley, we will be your host. As you are aware, the COVID-19 virus has placed restrictions on our society. However, we have adapted to these changes and have worked hard to bring a live Facebook stream of our ceremony in the true spirit of Miami High. Please welcome Kalani with the acknowledgement of country.
We would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians, the Kumbameri people of the Yugambeh language group, and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging, for they hold the memories, traditions and hopes for our Indigenous peoples. During all war efforts from the Boer War onwards, there has been a significant contribution of Indigenous peoples, with 1,000 Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander soldiers enlisted during World War I and as many as 8,000 during World War II. Today, we see over 2,000 active personnel throughout our defence forces. working towards peacekeeping efforts alongside their non-Indigenous counterparts. The national anthems of New Zealand and Australia will now be played. School Vice Captain Shayla Leah Moore will sing Advance Australia Fair. She'll be accompanied on piano by Mr. Cassidy Wilson.
Australians, all let us rejoice, for we are young and free, with golden soil and wealth for toil. Our home is girt by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains, then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Each year, on the 25th of April, we remember and honour all Australians and New Zealanders who served and died in all wars, conflicts and peacekeeping operations. The Anzac spirit, with its human qualities of courage, mateship, endurance and sacrifice, continues to have meaning and relevance for our sense of national identity. On Anzac Day, the service and sacrifice of veterans is acknowledged in ceremonies held in towns and cities across the nation, and the ever-growing attendances testify to Anzac Day's significance to all Australians. The Anzac spirit has become an almost indefinable core of our national culture and character. The qualities they displayed speak instinctively to our hearts of what it is to be Australian. On this day, Miami High salutes each and every one of our Anzac heroes, past and present. The Assembly maintains that the lofty ideals of service of the Anzacs pervaded the dauntless spirit of Australians' gallants, sons and daughters, who gave such heroic and self-sacrificing service in the cause of liberty. The same lofty ideals of service were exemplified in Korea, Malaya, Borneo, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, and every other place around the globe where peacekeeping, peacemaking, and the fight against terrorism take our servicemen and women. This assembly voices its heartfelt sympathy with the relatives of those who, during these wars and conflicts, made the supreme sacrifice, and with those who have suffered on behalf of the Commonwealth. The students and staff of Miami State High School give our assurance that those who have fallen shall be held in sacred memory, and that those who have survived the perils of war will ever be honoured and remembered with gratitude by the peoples whose homes they went forth to save, so that our freedom and our free institutions under the Commonwealth of Australia might survive. Please enjoy now a musical tribute of Waltzing Matilda, played and sung by Miami State High School teachers Mr. Mark Slingsby and Mr. Cassidy Wilson.
Once a jolly swagman came by a billabong under the shade of a coolabah tree, and he sang as he watched and waited for his billy to boil. You come a waltzing Matilda with me, waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda. You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me. And he sat as he watched and waited till his billy boiled. You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me. Down came a jumbuck to drink at the billabong. Up jumped the swagman and grabbed him with glee, and he sang as he shoved that jumbuck in his tucker bag. You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me, waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda. You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me. And he sang as he shoved that jumbuck in his tucker bag. You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me. Up rode the squatter, mounted on his thoroughbred. Up rode the troopers, 1, 2, 3, with that jolly jumbuck that you've got in your tucker bag. You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me, waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda. You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me, with that jolly jumbuck that you've got in your tucker bag. You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me. Up jumped the swagman and sprang into the billabong. You'll never catch me alive, said he, and his ghost may be heard as you pass by that billabong. You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me, waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda. You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me, and his ghost may be heard as you pass by that billabong. You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me.
Good morning, staff, students, families and friends of Miami State High School community. Also, a very special and warm welcome to our friends at our neighbouring aged care facilities that would normally join us here in our hall for this special occasion, but due to COVID-19 restrictions are unable to be here with us today.
However, I truly hope that you enjoy the special gift of our homemade Anzac biscuits delivered to you this morning as you watch us from a distance in your room with a cuppa. And finally, a very special welcome to everyone around Australia, New Zealand and the world who have joined us today for the Miami State High School tribute to the Anzacs. This morning is unique, not just because we cannot run our traditional Anzac service due to the current pandemic across our globe, nor because our great hall, where I stand right now, is without an audience. Instead, we are live streaming. It is unique for a very different reason, and a very, very personal reason for me. Because for the first time, I stand on stage to address our worldwide audience as a guest speaker and not as principal of Miami State High School. I am a guest speaker and the proud daughter of an heroic Anzac who fought in the Korean War. To the world, this soldier was known as George Alfred Harry Lang, OAM. But to me, he was known as Dad. And it was his undeniable Anzac traits that made him the magnificent soldier and dad that he was. Selfless, incredibly courageous, very comical, loyal, strong, brutally honest, and above all, a true blue mate to everyone that crossed his path. You could say that George Alfred Harry Lang, the ultimate Aussie soldier who typified the Anzac spirit, who embraced the battles with conviction in the Korean War to save the freedom and people of South Korea, simply stayed with him his whole life. After all, once an Anzac, always an Anzac. Today, April 24, 2020, is Kapyong Day. So this day has great significance to the Korean War, the day directly before Anzac Day. The Korean War was long known as the Forgotten War. It began in June 1950 and went for 3 years in duration, with the armistice signing coming in July 1953. Forgotten mainly as it followed World War II, so on the scale of countries involved seemed incomparable at the time. However, it certainly wasn't incomparable in terms of devastation and battles. The Korean War was brutal. It amassed well over 6 million troops from various countries around the world in some capacity over the 3 years. This was a war which commenced without warning on June 25, 1950, with a thunder of artillery shells exploding around the ancient capital, Kaesong, in South Korea. North Korea, a communist country with the support of the Soviet Union, were on the attack. They were determined to take over South Korea. The Northern Korean army consisted of 135,000 troops plus artillery, combat planes and 150 Soviet Union tanks, leaving South Korea almost defenceless with only around 90,000 troops and little artillery to defend themselves. At the time, the United Nations saw this as an attack on democracy and an attack on the United Nations as a whole. So on June 25, 1950, the United Nations Security Council voted unanimously to make its move. A move to help restore international peace in Korea. So entered some Commonwealth troops with the support of the USA. My dad George loved his country. He was a true blue Aussie who loved nothing more than supporting the underdog and fighting tooth and nail for his mates and for social justice. So it was no surprise he was desperate to enlist for service and embark on Korea for when this war was declared. There was a catch though. You had to be 18 years of age for active service. But to my dad, that didn't matter. He was determined to represent his country and be an Aussie digger, something he wanted years before as a young 13-year-old boy who, in his words, watched from his window as his older siblings left home to embark on World War II. So through a good old little white lie, which was the norm in those days, he convinced the government he was 18, and off to Korea he went. It was there that he became part of the soon-to-be famous 3RAR, the 3rd Royal Australian Regiment, a battalion that became widely recognised across the globe as one of the best of its time. My dad George also loved to tell a good story and had a wicked sense of humour to go with it. A true Aussie digger, you would say. He would often reminisce about how he and his mates would sit around at night around the campfire after a day in the trenches, talking about preparing for the battle the next day and plotting their attack on the North Koreans and Chinese who had also begun to join forces. He not only loved strategising for the next day, but he also knew when that classic joke was needed to lift his mates' spirits around the campfire just so they could be in the right frame of mind for that battle the next day. So it wasn't long before he was seen as the leader of the pack, and his superior at the time, and he was still only 17, said, "Langy, you were born for this. You're a born leader. We can do this." As time went on, so began the Battle of Kapyong, a battle that was soon to be known as prominent in the Korean War. This battle in the valley dividing North and South Korea elevated 3RAR to the status of the elite battalion in the Korean War, the battalion that my dad George, along with so many other Anzacs, put their heart and soul into in order to save South Korea from invasion, as all Anzacs did without question and always will. As time went on, 3AR were known as the tough, unified fighting machine and described by a leading American general at the time as the best he had ever seen in and outside of the USA and across the world. Why? Well, you don't have to be strong at maths to work this out. In Kapyong Valley, where the Battle of Kapyong took place, the main narrow valley into South Korea, 7,000 Chinese advanced to capture Seoul, whilst 400 men in rifle companies for the Commonwealth, including 3AR from Australia that my dad was a member of, stood in their way and hit the trenches in combat. Yes, that's 400 versus 7,000. This, along with heavy artillery airstrikes, was a long and weary battle, but put simply, was the battle of all battles in this war. A battle that the 3RAR and the Commonwealth won against extraordinary odds and helped contribute to concluding the Korean War. Yes, those numbers again, 400 against 7,000, with 400 overturning the 7,000 to save South Korea to keep their freedom. That's remarkable, that's humanity, but it's also the true Anzac spirit that come through in an extraordinary moment in world history. This battalion of 3RAR not only excelled in attack at Kapyong, it showed supreme skill in defence and incredible team discipline of when to withdraw from battle at the right time, at the right moment, all so no man was lost. They were mates and they wanted to stick together. That is not only absolute skill, it is leadership and mateship at its finest. True characteristics of the Anzac, characteristics that continued to shape the lives of all Australians and New Zealanders to follow, and the legacy of the Anzac to live on in subsequent wars and in future generations. I have no doubt many of you listening now would be thinking, how could 400 possibly defeat 7,000 and come through with very limited casualties? I asked my dad that very same question, along with questions like, weren't you scared? How did you plan to combat that when the odds were so stacked against you? To which he would simply reply, no, I wasn't scared. It was what we did back then, and it was what we were to do. You don't give it a second thought. It's your job, and you should never complain. He would add, it's also about our country that you represent and that your mates you are fighting with, and it's about the freedom for others that you fight for. And he would then look me in the eye and say, Susan, we also did our homework and strategised. We plotted and we planned, and we never ever reneged on a plan. We were all in that plan together as a team, win or lose. That was the golden rule of the Anzac. It was at this stage I learned very quickly through my dad how strategy and culture trumps facts and figures, particularly when the odds are against you, and that noting that nothing is impossible if you are prepared to think hard, do your research, make yourself vulnerable, and put yourself on the line to build high levels of trust in a team. So not surprisingly, when I listened to my dad take part in many media interviews later in life as he became somewhat famous, he was asked similar questions around how on earth can you win a battle against those odds? To which he would always answer, it was teamwork, trust, and morale, and that is what won this battle. He would add though, don't ever get me wrong, the strategy was good too, but the strategy was able to be executed with distinction due to high levels of trust, morale, and mateship amongst us Anzacs. In Australia and New Zealand, we hear the words courage, mateship, and selflessness a lot when it comes to honouring our Anzacs. But I know firsthand now, through my dad's story, and the stories of so many servicemen and women, how they are more than just words. They are actions. And they are actions which combined that so many Anzacs who've been at war executed that collectively have made Anzac Day, April 25, one of the most important days on our annual calendar. And they are actions that need to live on through the generations of our children to come, because they are actions that are immeasurable. When you fight for your country and when you fight for another country's freedom, the commonality is selflessness. And as a fresh-faced 17-year-old boy with this trait and a whole lot more, who went quickly to battle, then quickly being told in the battle he was a born leader with an innate ability to rally his troops that my dad lived up to as an Anzac long after the Korean War was over. Speak to an Anzac and they say, once an Anzac, always an Anzac. Speak to my dad as an Anzac and he would say the same. But he always added, we've got to fight every bugger for justice and do what it takes to get this world right, even when not at war. And fight he did, long after the Korean War ended. I made reference at the beginning of this speech that the Korean War was long known as the Forgotten War, so much so that government never officially recognised it as War of Active Service, or its servicemen and women being distinguished with an Active Service Medal. There was still this situation in the 80s, so someone had to take up the fight, and that is what my father did. On behalf of the Korean War veterans in Australia, after years of lobbying the Australian government for Active Service Medal for all servicemen with continued declines, he was smart enough and bold enough to change his approach. He continued to research and he took his charge to the top and lobby the Queen of the Commonwealth as an Anzac that had been instructed to fight for the Commonwealth from Queen Elizabeth in the Korean War. It took just over 12 months of persistence and correspondence, but that persistence as an Anzac and my dad finally paid off. And Queen Elizabeth announced to all Australian servicemen and women that served in the Korean War that she ordered the Commonwealth and Australian government to award an Active Service Medal for their service in saving South Korea and its freedom for what they still enjoy today. It was a defining moment in Australian history, a defining moment for my family too, that brought tears to our eyes and every man and woman's eyes and their families too that served in Korea. Not because of my dad's hard work, but because it meant widows of those that died in active service could now receive benefits that they were rightly entitled to, just as widows did that lost their husbands in battles in World War I and II. It was very obvious that Queen Elizabeth was touched too through her correspondence to my father, as she placed the Korean War equally with other wars through his hard work, and then personally placed my dad, George Lang, in the history books again, for a different type of battle. It was June 2007 that my dad earned another medal from Queen Elizabeth, the Order of the Australia Medal, for his selfless work for the Commonwealth, both in battle and in search for justice thereafter. Determined not to stop there and remember the Anzacs and all servicemen and women in the Korean War, my dad, George, founded the Queensland Veterans Association, an association that has grown across the state and country now to be recognised as one of the finest in the land. With one of his proudest moments forging an agreement with the state government to create a state memorial garden and wall of remembrance, which is located here at Cascade Gardens, Broadbeach. I didn't have the opportunity to see my dad as a soldier that was held in such high esteem across the Commonwealth. One who was regularly mentioned in dispatches across the globe for his bravery and leadership at the time. But I did have the pleasure of watching my dad's quality attributes of the true blue Anzac come through in his work every day, long after the Korean War ended. That never say die attitude and that fighting selfless nature to do what is right rather than what is easy. That unique ability to light a spark when times were noticeably flat, or tell that ockerish joke when he knew it was needed most, or to simply help a mate when their back was to the wall. Yep, a true Anzac through and through. Many children will often refer to their dads as their heroes, and rightly so, because a hero can look different to everyone. But I can say with complete honesty and pride that my dad, George Alfred Harry Lang, was not only mine and my 4 siblings' hero, he was, and still is, a hero to all of South Korea and many servicemen across the country as well. This was never more evident than 2 years ago, when sadly my dad passed away from a heart attack. Upon preparing for his funeral, which had to be coordinated with the RSL and ADF as a prominent ex-serviceman, my family received 2 touching letters, both from the Korean and Australian governments, saddened at the loss of a true Anzac that should never be forgotten. And in particular, the South Korean government, who indicated they will forever be indebted to a man that they held in such high regard still to this day, for leading the charge in a critical battle to save their country and retain their freedom. On the day of his funeral, it read like this: "Dear family of Mr. George Lang, our hero, on behalf of the Korean government, we send our most sincere regards for your loss. Koreans have lost a brave friend. He sacrificed himself to fight for us and the Korean War, and was always remembered through his service to our country. We love him and we will never forget him. Korea is in mourning." And this: "Dear Lang family, it was with very sad and a heavy heart that I now acknowledge the loss of George Alfred Harry Lang. I know of his work and I had the honour of meeting him recently and know of the valuable contribution he has made to our country and our parliament. We are thinking of you, me in particular. Major General Peter Cosgrove." So, as the saying goes, once an Anzac, always an Anzac. The battle just changes, but the qualities that define the Anzac spirit always remain the same. the qualities that every Australian and New Zealand man and woman, boy and girl, should not only never forget, but should strive to emulate. I would like to now invite School Captain Josephine Dutton to the stage to call for her Miami State High School call of action.
One of our key values at Miami High is respect, with the whole of our community embracing and embodying it. This year is like no other I have seen. I issue this call of action to the Miami High community to pay our respects to the fallen soldiers. We can all show our gratitude and appreciation to all the soldiers who fought for our freedom by standing in our driveways or on our balconies with a lit candle at dawn tomorrow on Anzac Day. If you're a musician, we invite you to play The Last Post and Rouse. Instead of laying a traditional wreath, we encourage you to dress your windows or letterboxes. Please, we ask you that you remember all the Anzacs, and in the true Aussie spirit, show your respect by taking part in this nationwide event from your very own home.
It is now custom in Queensland schools at this point in the Anzac commemoration that we spare a thought for those Australians who have fallen in battles during the Boer War, the two World Wars, in Korea, Malaya, Vietnam, East Timor, Iraq and Afghanistan. Tributes will shortly be laid by School Council President John Campbell, President of Miami Parents and Citizens Association Cherie Lai, Principal Sue Dalton and School Captain Josephine Dutton.
In just a short moment, we will stand for the ode and the last post. This is the most solemn and respectful part of the entire service. The last post will be followed by the traditional 1-minute silence, then the rouse. The last post is a bugle call which signals the end of the day. It became incorporated into funeral and memorial services as a final farewell and symbolises that the duty of the dead is over and that they can now rest in peace. The second piece of bugle music you will hear comes after the 1-minute silence. This central part of the ceremony is a time when we reflect upon and honour all who have fallen in war. The rouse signifies that after the period of mourning, life and duty continue. On Anzac Day, the rouse breaks the silence that follows the playing of the last post and the minute silence. The ode will be now read by Miami State High School teacher, Sergeant Robin Thomas.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age will not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them,
Lest we forget.
lest we forget.
This now concludes our assembly. The courage, the selflessness, the good humour, but above all, the mateship of our Anzacs are values that myself and our community are proud to mirror and uphold. In these times, where our experiences are unprecedented, we must cling to these values so that we may come out stronger and more united. We will. So, on behalf of Miami State High School, we would like to thank all who have joined us both locally and worldwide. Our world has changed, but our values and what we stand for won't. Thank you for joining our special community service, and goodbye.